The Podcasting Dead is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud. Make sure to subscribe for more podcasts. And while you're at it, drop us a like. If you want to help support the channel and have access to extra content, secret contest, and more, make sure to search for us on Patreon. Patreon.com/thepodcastingdead.
All right, let's get into it. It's time for Walking Dead What Ifs. So I'm Justin.
I'm JP.
And we're the Podcasting Dead, a podcast that talks about a lot of things, but primarily we do love The Walking Dead, so we discuss that a little bit more than the other stuff. But if you're into podcasts in general, make sure to check out our channel for everything from conspiracies to ghosts to just common conversation. But as for now, we're taking your Walking Dead what-if scenarios. You ask us questions in the comment section, and we discuss them. So JP... I'm going to take the load off of you, man. I'm going to read some of the questions next week. I know I've kind of just been sitting back lazily letting you read them the last few weeks, but I
like orating and narrating a little bit. It's good, and it helps me practice with my verbs.
It helps me practice this whole reading thing.
Yeah. So,
yeah,
but
man.
Speaking of which, I got a good one from 1 week ago. It comes from the Kyle, King of Trash People. Now this
all hail Kyle.
Yes. My hat is off. This one is going to leave your butt on the floor, man. This is halfway between a what if and a prediction, but what if Maggie comes back wearing the same key badge as Jenny's group uses? Of course, he's talking about the Pioneers from Fear the Walking Dead, the lady that gunned down Morgan like a dirty dog in the street. But what if we find out that she's made her way into Pioneer territory and she's linked up with them?
It ain't going to be my butt hitting the floor. It's going to be my feet hitting the floor to go over the TV to turn it off.
No, man.
I can't stand the Pioneer people. If that's the case, man, I'd be like, okay.
That would be the fiercest crossover.
You hate the Pioneer. You hate we've got plenty of you hate the Pioneer people. Why are you now saying that you would like that?
No, I only said that because I was so upset and furious about how she did Morgan and her splitting up my people.
Whatever.
No, they're a fierce villainous threat.
No, they're not. I got a podcast the other week of you saying that they're terrible.
I don't believe that was me.
I'm pretty sure. We tried to record this one on Monday, and if I have to, I'll release some of last week's clips. That will definitely put that to rest.
Fake news. But yeah, that is an interesting thought, though, isn't it?
No, it's not. That would suck. The Pioneer people are the worst, and Maggie should not link up with them. But now, you know what? If Maggie was acting like she was at the end of All Out War, where she's like, we're going to show Rick. I could totally see it. She was being pretty dumb then, so we'll see. No, I don't like the Pioneer people. I don't like much of anything coming out of Fear the Walking Dead. The good thing, the best thing that came out of Fear the Walking Dead as of late was the Barn of Pleasures, which came because of how bored we were talking about the show. So,
and it keeps on coming. But that's a good one. Thank you, Kyle. And throw us a new one on there. We'll get to it in a few days on Monday. But yeah, moving right on up the list. Are you ready for another barn burner of a what if scenario?
Probably not.
You're gonna love this one. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. I'm still scrolling. I'm sorry. All right, this one is from a longtime listener, Corey Andros. I'm glad you said it, and he's hearkening back to something we addressed last week. And this is quite this one you're really going to have to digest. So just hold on to your britches. All right. So what if Reg was our Herschel? We had a question last week talking about, like, what if The Walking Dead started with the Alexandria group instead of Rick and Company? So that's what Corey is referring to. So with that in mind, what if Reg was our Herschel, Aaron our Rick, Aaron our Rick, Eric our Glenn, and we forgot Keith. Sorry, Corey, you're right. We totally forgot about Heath.
And, I mean, it's easy to forget because as good as he was probably one of the best adapted from the comic to the screen, but we didn't get much time with him before he mysteriously disappeared, never to be seen again.
This is true. So here is the what if. What if those characters were established as badasses that we love? Jess and Pete's marital issues, Deanna's failures as a leader, or successes. Would Aaron and Heath and Eric and Nicholas have become hard asses because, from a writing standpoint, you put them in gritty, effed up situations to shape them. Imagine we get the same with all those characters that we did with Rick and company, those first 3 seasons or so. Maybe Nicholas gets people killed and gets banished, comes back and kills people. Aaron and Heath have to hunt him down. Reg starts to question Deanna's methods. Maybe that Carter guy from the season 6 premiere is a foil for Aaron or one of the other main characters. Then eventually we get introduced to Rick's group, and maybe the conflict is ramped up from the get-go. So, Corey, I want to hear more of this like alternate universe you've created. That's some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, it would have been good. I mean, if we were putting them in the same situations, but I don't think any of them are as polarizing on the screen as our main cast, though, like Denai Guerrera and Andrew Lincoln, and these people are just so entertaining to watch. But, I mean, you could be right. It could be really good. I've always really liked Aaron. I liked Eric. Jesse's husband was whatever, but that definitely could be some good drama. I mean, an abusive relationship, which we kind of dealt with some of that with Carol and her husband until he got eaten in his tent.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, if you had the right writing and we saw them from the beginning, it'd be interesting to see how we perceived Rick's group showing up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like not. Look, listen.
What is that?
You can't hear in the mic. It's my leg.
Oh.
It sounds like a fart.
Oh, my God.
Anyways, like, it'd be interesting. I'm sorry, it's Friday. My mind's everywhere, but in this studio. But it'd be interesting to see how we perceived Rick's group if we had never met them until they showed up at Alexandria. But then again, it would be totally different in this scenario, I guess, because we're putting these characters in scenarios they never really experienced in the original timeline. So would Rick and group even be allowed in? I mean, like, it's so many questions. So, are we talking about they're not the same people that we met? I mean, we see them go through more trials and tribulations. Because it seemed, until Rick and them showed up, it seemed like these people had barely even seen walkers other than, like, Aaron. I mean, they just were in this safe haven that Rick and his group showed up and just ripped apart. It's like, they'd be like Negan said, man. It's like, you were good for what, years? And then Rick shows up. Now you're an orphan? Because, I mean, I'm not saying it's Rick's fault, but that's pretty much what happened. Rick showed up and everything just got turned over on its head. But no, I mean, I definitely think there's some strong actors in that scenario, and I think it could be good with the right writing. Like JP said, paint us more pictures of this alternate universe, and we'll explore further.
Yeah, cool stuff, Corey. Thank you as always. Love Mr. Andros. Now, you better clench your cheeks, because Photosynthesis 858 is about to give you a good fisting, and I ain't even kidding, man. This one is going to just leave you asunder. Okay? Okay.
When you put it like that.
Yeah. So, Photosynthesis is, what if The Walking Dead wasn't a sinking ship that all the actors are jumping off of? LOL, shake my head. To be honest, that show has been absolute shite since Carl and Rick left. The entire franchise has a really bad habit of killing off its main characters and expecting us fans to stick around. Shake my head. 2 thumbs down, a shrug, and a facepalm. He doesn't like the show anymore. It was just weird because the season where Rick left, we said because the new showrunner Angela Kang, we thought it had gotten back to its kind of glory days.
I think I'm really enjoying it. I'm not saying that there aren't a few episodes here and there where you kind of like, yeah, it was okay, but I mean that was the same way even in its glory days. You still had episodes that were like, yeah, it was all right, But then the next one was really good, or the one before was really good. I don't know. I don't consider it a sinking ship. I think one of the biggest problems with The Walking Dead's longevity.
Yeah, I mean you can't. Yeah,
they're wrapping up season 10, getting ready to go into season 11. I mean, the cartoons can pull that off, but for a show to go that long, I mean, that's not. Even the best writers probably, I mean, it's got to be a tough job to keep writing that show. And I know they have comic material to go off of, but I mean, you got to figure out ways to change it and. But I've thoroughly enjoyed the last couple of seasons. I've never reached a point where I was ready to leave The Walking Dead. I mean, some people didn't like it and fell off and quit watching or whatever. But like I never reached a point where I didn't look forward to watching The Walking Dead. I mean, All Out War was definitely drug out and was kind of like, I just wish they'd get on with it already. I mean, but other than that, you know, I mean, I think that it's gotten back to, because what they're doing that I think that they really, Angela Kang's run show is you always had like a few characters they would really get you acquainted with, and the rest were always like T-Dog. They were always there, but you never really got to know them that good. And then you were expected to be really sad when they died, which, I mean, come on, who wasn't sad when T-Dog died? But I think that they're working hard. I think Angela Kang's trying to flesh out more characters, which is what Game of Thrones did. I mean, like with Angela Kang now, you don't have, which is funny because I think she wrote the episodes that I hated the most back in the day, the Daryl and Beth episodes that I just found to be so long and boring. But they're taking these characters and giving you multiple stories in each episode and really getting to know different characters so that you have more main characters, if that makes sense. Except for Magna. I think they're really trying hard to make you like Magna, and I really don't care. Yeah,
but sorry you don't like the show anymore, Photosynthesis, but hopefully you'll still like the podcast and hang out with us.
Yeah, if you ever don't want to hear us talk about The Walking Dead, we do have podcasts talking about lots of other stuff. So that's definitely true. Check us out, and we appreciate you dropping by.
Yep. Moving on to Not Julian YT.
If it's not Julian, then who is he?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. Maybe we'll get to the bottom of it.
Who is Julian YT, and why are you not them?
I don't know, but apparently a longtime listener says, I've listened since the start of the channel, but never really comment.
Thank you so much, Julian. And, not Julian.
Not Julian, yeah.
What do we call? Do we call them just not Julian? Because, I mean, I just instinctively want to be like, thanks, Julian. No, wait, you're not Julian.
Yeah, I don't know what the, I don't know.
Love to get the story on some of the names of our listeners.
Yeah, no kidding. Not Julian goes on to say, what if Rick never left the show? How different do you think the show would be? And how would he have dealt with the Whisperers?
I think anything with Andrew Lincoln in it longer could only be better. I don't think him being in the show would take away from it. I think that if there's any benefit to Andy Lincoln leaving the show is that it gave other actors a chance to step up and get more screen time and more character development. But if the crew running the show now were able to keep Rick in the show, but perhaps going into like season 10, give him more of a, because I mean in the comics at this point he had more of a backseat role, and I know somebody, hear me out, not backseat as in he wasn't a main character anymore, but Rick was injured after All Out War. He was pretty much crippled. He had to use a cane to walk around, which he definitely used that cane to beat the hell out of people and walkers, but he was injured. So when it came to the, front lines kind of, there were a lot more people that were getting out and doing, some of the more intense stuff. And I really feel like if he were there, it'd be, I would love all right, so in my perfect Walking Dead, if Rick were still in it, it'd be like, you'd have all this Whisperer stuff come on, but instead of Daryl walking out to meet Alpha, it would have been Rick. Mm-hmm. But it would have been really cool to have Rick not really dealing with these, not meeting Alpha for a while, having other characters. He's heard a lot about her, but he doesn't. Just to see his reaction when to see the two Titans clash.
Yes.
After hearing of each other and knowing of each other and ordering their people to do this and that and kind of fighting behind the lines, to see them finally come face to face would have been cool. But I'm fairly happy with the way they kind of gave Daryl the lead in this, because I thought Daryl and Alpha had some great interactions.
Oh, for sure. But I definitely think the show would have been much better had Carl and Rick been left alone, or just let live. But,
I got my own surprise Walking Dead what if now.
Oh boy,
we're adding to it.
Okay.
Right. I don't have to go comment it, do I? Can I just ask you, or do I need to?
Yeah, we'll break protocol this once.
All right, I can go comment it real quick if you want me to. All right, so imagine Rick and Carl were still alive.
Okay.
We know that Henry's story with Lydia, their little short-lived romance, was kind of giving him Carl's comic story arc. So how different? All right, so basically, if Rick and Carl were still alive, Carl would have had a romantic relationship with Lydia, like in the comics. Mm-hmm. which would not have put Henry at odds with Alpha in the way that it did.
All right.
So, therefore, Henry's head probably wouldn't have ended up on a pike if Henry were even a big part of the show at all. Mm-hmm. Highly doubtful that because basically, unless they just, you could still just be like, well, I just still think they would have somehow worked Henry into it for Carol's. But let's just assume they didn't, because basically what got Henry's head on that pike was constantly interfering with the Whisperers. So imagine that Carl had that romance with Lydia. 2 questions. First, do you think Carl's head would have ended up on a pike? And 2, if not, who do you think would have took Henry's place up on the pike?
Oh, gee, no, I don't think that. I don't think Alpha. I don't think they could have took old Carl like they took. A common walker that he's killed hundreds of got him because he got complacency.
Yeah,
complacency.
But if not Carl, and for the sake of the argument, for the sake of the discussion, I don't think that Carl would have ended up on the pike either. So the question is, who would have taken Henry's place?
Oh gosh,
I feel like it would have definitely been King Ezekiel.
Oh, jeez.
Because, they've given him cancer and all of that. And I feel like he's definitely going to die soon. But if that slot were open, I think they definitely would have. Because they would have needed something for Carol to fight for vengeance without Henry's head up there. And she, even though they were estranged, she still cares about King Ezekiel for the most part. So that could have definitely set her off. But
I'm so sad now thinking about those beautiful locks just swaying in the wind as his head's on a pike.
The barn of pleasures would never be the same.
Gosh, no, it wouldn't.
Ezekiel's not there to officiate all of the debauchery. Instead, he's just a walker head on a pike.
I know.
Daryl puts it up on top of the barn, and it's like, I can't let him go. We can't do all this without him.
Oh gosh.
So who do you think? I say Ezekiel. Or Ezekiel, I don't want to say Rosita, because they definitely seem like they had plans for Rosita going forward. But who do you think? Who do you think would have taken Carl's place? And even if you don't fully believe it, you just got to give us somebody. Imagine you're writing the show, and it's an alternate universe, and Henry's not even really a focal point of the show anymore. He's just kind of a character that's there. Carl's in the romantic relationship with Lydia and kind of taking his comic book story. Who do you think would have taken Henry's place on the pike?
Jeez, Louis. Well, she wants to hurt Rick in a major way. So who is close to Rick that would really hurt him if she put that face?
Carl or Michonne?
Yeah.
Or Daryl?
Yeah.
Dare Bear.
Gosh, I don't want to.
You got to pick somebody.
Oh gosh.
Like Negan said, everyone's at the table waiting to eat. What is it? Everybody's at the table waiting on me to order. Oh, that's on you now.
I'll say Father Gabriel.
Okay.
I'll say him, just because it's less painful.
God, a walker, Father Gabriel, with that already one hazy eye.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So they wouldn't even have to CGI that much. It'd be all right. But, man, speaking of the Barn of Pleasures, I think you're going to get a big kick out of Jonas Belili's What If, and he's hitting us with some rapid fire.
Rapid fire from Jonas. And you're talking about longtime listeners. Jonas has been with us pretty much from the beginning, too.
Oh, yeah, man. Love Jonas. But he says, what if Shiva had survived the swamp and instead Jerry took her place?
The Barn of Pleasures would have been a far sadder place. A far more dangerous place, too.
Yeah. You can't have sex with a tiger.
Every time you start getting it, the tiger roars, and you're like, oh, sorry. I thought I was going to get mauled. And plus, nobody's going to really be in a festive mood without hearing Jerry's roar, dude.
You're a sexy tiger. Yes, you are.
Well, and the thing is, for new listeners, if you've never listened to any of our podcasts before, we created this thing called the Barn of Pleasures from Fear the Walking Dead because we were bored. And just imagine that essentially it's Herschel's barn where all the Walking Dead characters just get in a pile and hump each other. And we've said that King Ezekiel would definitely have Jerry in a tiger costume to make like laying by his side to take up for Shiva. So Jerry's just like, roar, dude.
Tail attached to a butt plug, just hanging there.
Don't be a naughty tiger or I'm going to pull your tail.
Yeah.
Start playing that. Who sings that song? I got a tiger by the tail.
Buck Owens.
I got a Jerry by the tail. It's in his butt.
Oh, no.
But no, if Shiva would have... All right, so Jerry rescued King Ezekiel from Jeffrey Dahmer, pretty much. Then they found themselves in that toxic creek pit thing, and that's where Shiva jumps in out of nowhere and saves the day and dies. So in this scenario, we're imagining Jerry sacrifices himself and Shiva lived. Now, the things you got to focus on is how did Jerry impact the story going forward? I mean, in the cave, he wouldn't have been there to help everyone get out the cave the way he did.
Yeah.
He's a big, strong guy, and he definitely, was a major player in helping most of them escape. So how different would it have been if it wasn't Jerry? I mean, who else? I don't really know if there's anybody else that would have been able to hold it up the way that he did. So there definitely might have been more missing / casualties because we don't really know what's going on with some characters from that. But, a character from that, Connie, one that I really liked, and I know she's off filming other stuff, but Connie is fantastic and needs to come back to the show. I would have been perfectly fine if Magna was the one that just never came back. Yeah. But so that might have played out a lot different. Like pivotal points in the show, man. We wouldn't have had that heartbreaking moment where they killed Neil. Remember Neil in the back seat, this one character we'd never met before, and then his one line the whole time was when Maggie says something about taking I don't know what she says, and he's like, hell yeah, and then Simon shoots him in the head, and we're like, Neil, no! But we wouldn't have got that heartbreaking scene with Jerry where they had him at gunpoint. We thought he was going to die.
Yeah.
But now, how would Shiva? How do you think Shiva would have played a?
I think that just for practicality's sake, they would have had to have killed her off the show. Relatively. I mean,
on a battlefield, I'm sure a tiger could take a person or two, but I mean, a bunch of people with guns and a giant tiger, I feel like it's pretty easy target.
Yeah, and I mean, not to mention, I would think all that gunfire, it'd be like any other animal, just get scared as hell and run away, right?
Most do, yeah. Now, what would have been cool, though, is when Rick, remember we got that cool scene where Rick and his group were, and forgive me if some of the orders are mixed up. You got to remember, it's been a while since we've seen All Out War, and the whole thing was so drug out. Sometimes my brain wants to put stuff in the wrong order. But remember when Rick was going through kind of towards the end of it and was taking out people from different outposts?
Yeah.
How badass would have been to take Shiva on some of those missions, and like had somebody patrolling this desolate spot, and all of a sudden you just see Shiva jump and take one out.
Oh my God.
She could have been more instrumental in that regard, but I'm like true. You. I feel like eventually Shiva's going to die. I mean, there's so many. I mean, during the battle with the Whisperers, what would Shiva have been able to do? Remember when they burned Hilltop to the freaking ground? Yeah. I mean, it's probably, unfortunately, would have been either in the woods like Dipset, the hell with y'all,
yeah,
or caught on fire. Or we could have seen her with her tail on fire running through the... Wasn't there like a biblical story where they took like jackals or coyotes or something and lit their tails on fire and let them run through fields and catch crops on fire?
That sounds like that happened.
Anyways.
I don't know.
But yeah, I'm glad we got Jerry, but I'm not going to lie, Shiva's death was heartbreaking.
It was rough. But keeping with Ezekiel and Shiva, Jonah says, what if we had begun the Walking Dead story with Ezekiel and Shiva, in the kingdom and all that stuff? That would have been interesting.
With some of these what ifs, though, I wonder, so are we saying everything stays the same? Because it sounded like with Cordy's, you were changing up the timeline. It was an alternate universe where they went through totally different things. Like you were using those characters, but they were the focal point, and therefore their stories. Because if it would have played out the same way it did, I don't know if it would have been as entertaining. Now, one thing I would love to see, but I'm guessing for the sake of conversation, Jonas is saying everything still plays out the way it does. We just get to see it following them.
Yeah, just kind of like a Better Call Saul, but with Ezekiel,
I think it would definitely be interesting. I don't know if it would be as entertaining because the kingdom wasn't really, I don't know. It just didn't capture me the way that other aspects of the show did. However, I do love King Ezekiel and I love Corey Payton. But I think it would have definitely been interesting to see how he broke the deal with the Saviors.
Yes.
Because we know that of all the places, he was the one that had it, the best deal. Like, his people didn't even know they were giving supplies to the Saviors. Like, he had it set to where they never stepped foot in the kingdom and yada, yada. So I would have loved to have seen how that deal came to be. Because everyone else, because it almost was like Negan, you would think, would be like, hell no, I want your people to fall in line and know, you know, who I am or who we are and what we'll do if they don't, blah, 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 blah. And you know, like with Alexandria, man, Negan just straight up rolls down the street. Like, this is the kind of thing that just, what does he say there? This is the kind of thing that just, they used to know that line, tickles my balls or something like that effect. But, you know, with Ezekiel, they didn't step foot in. So I'd like to have seen how they met and how that deal was brokered. I imagine just Ezekiel's, just Ezekiel himself being, you know, probably wowed them. You know, my friends, have you heard of the Barn of Pleasures? I can give Negan everything he wants and more if he just finds me in the barn.
I think that would have been a powerful negotiation tool.
I mean, but it could have had some interesting points. I don't know how interesting it would have been to have gone this many seasons. What it would really would be cool though is to see, like, if you could just like erase your memory and watch that, and I just again go back to how cool it'd be to see Rick and his group, like you've never experienced them before at that point in the timeline.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
King Ezekiel.
Oh, boy. But Jonas, man, he is hitting us with some good ones. And this next one is for you, my friend. Are you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be.
All right. So this is the original Atlanta crew has flashbacks like Lost. Basically, what if, you know, Rick and company just out the gate was having Lost type flashbacks, of course, talking about the ABC show Lost from yesteryear. I know one of your favorite shows.
Oh, yes.
Would this enhance the already amazing storytelling of seasons 1 and 2?
Oh, without a doubt. Abso-freaking-lutely, man. I think that was one of the best things that Lost did. And not everyone liked Lost, but I think the reason why we were so captivated and just enamored with these characters is because you knew them. Like, every episode, you got to, like, this innocent character that you thought was, you know, like Sun and Jin, and you find out that Jin's done some terrible things for Sun's dad. You know, just like it gives you a fresh perspective on these people. You know what they're fighting for. You know why they act the way they act, the things they've been through. Sawyer's heartbreaking story. You think he's just an asshole, but then you learn about him and he's still an asshole, but you realize, like, wow, he's had a rough life. And I absolutely think it would be better if it was done right, because Lost did a good job of, they would flashback for a few minutes. They didn't. I feel like Frank Darabont might have pulled it off better, but like when they were at the point where they had to take an entire episode just to basically show Daryl and Beth get drunk and for Daryl to cry, I worry the flashbacks would have been. But if they could have done it Lost style, where they flashback for a few minutes, episode resumes. Flashback, oh yes, without a doubt. I mean, I might actually would like Andrea if I knew a little bit more about her.
Yeah, that definitely would have been interesting to see, Jonas. I'm not. I've never watched Lost, so I can't really really contribute much. But that would have been cool, man, to just see really in-depth looks at who they were before the apocalypse broke out. I'd be down for that.
Well, look how effective it was with other characters. We did get it with a few. I mean, you got like a few well, I don't know. I mean, you kind of got some flashbacks with Shane and Rick. I mean, look at how, I don't know about you, but for me, we got that flashback of Shane going back to save Rick. That just changed everything. Yeah. Like, you didn't have really, you know, like in the comic, as far as I remember, because granted, you're talking about one of like the first issues here where Rick kills Shane. It really isn't any sympathy for Shane. Like, Rick just shows up and Shane's like, damn it, I was banging his woman. Right. Now I'm going to have to kill him. In the show, when we got that flashback of Shane going to the hospital, risking his life, trying to save Rick, and then we see that he didn't just ditch out on Rick. Like, he genuinely, like, tried to save him. He put his head to his chest and thought that he was dead. For me, that changed everything. Like, that made, I couldn't hate Shane after that. Now, I might be pulling more for Rick, but it made Shane a more sympathetic character, because you're like, wow, in Lori's mind, he basically was just like, oh, yeah, your husband's dead. Now give me that butt. But we, the viewers, know that, no, that's not it at all. Like, poor Shane, man. I mean, he is in a weird situation because he did try to save Rick. He did think that Rick was dead. And if not for Shane, Rick still probably would have died because he put the little cart in front of the door so the walkers couldn't get in there and get him.
Ah, that's right. I forgot about that.
So, I mean, yes, I think that absolutely it could have been a whole lot better with those flashbacks. Thanks for bringing up Lost, man. I always love discussing Lost.
Oh, yeah. And, man, speaking of some of our favorite TV shows, Jonas goes on to say, what if your other favorite TV shows were placed in the Walking Dead universe? How would it play out, and what show characters would it be?
Oh, man. I mean, I got so many favorite shows. I mean, Game of Thrones would be the shit because Daenerys would just fly around and burn all the way. They'd be easy for them. They're like, wait a minute. You don't have to have... let me think. Hold on. Let me get in my British accent, or a terrible British accent. They're like, hey... So you're telling me you don't have to have... Why is that more Australian? But basically, they would just be like, holy shit, so you don't have to have dragon glass or Valyrian steel? Like, I can actually just take a regular sword and whack these things' heads off? Psh. Jon Snow would be like, we've got this. I mean, Arya would just be a badass, just running around like, oh, this is so easy, John. You just, like, stab their head and they die. Like, I'm just using a regular stainless steel kitchen knife. Like, this is awesome. But more reality-grounded shows, I guess. Like, it'd be awesome to see, like, Jesse Pinkman or Walter White in the apocalypse. I think Walter White... Well, it depends, though. Like, before Heisenberg might not have been much, but... after becoming Heisenberg, and we'll say at the height of Heisenberg, before the fall of Heisenberg, could have become a great villain.
Oh yeah, man, it would have been great to see like Tuco, in that kind of circumstance. Yeah, like Tuco in the same show with Merle, man. Think about that.
Oh yeah,
that'd be crazy.
Who do you think would be the alpha male there?
Jeez, dude, I don't know.
I think that seeing the way that Merle kind of bowed to the governor, Tuco didn't bow to anybody.
No.
So seeing the way that even though, and I know there's a little backstory that Merle owed the governor his life because he found him and so all of that, whatever. But seeing the way that he kind of bowed to the governor and was subservient, I feel like Tuco would be the alpha male in that scenario.
Tuco definitely was a firecracker. Yeah, that'd be pretty.
Or Gus. How cool would it be to see Gus as running some group? And he's just, oh man. Or even Mike. Having Mike, I don't know that he would be a villain, but Mike was my favorite character on Breaking Bad.
Yeah, dude, it's great seeing him on Better Call Saul, man. It's really good seeing him just still doing that character and adding so much more depth to it too.
Oh yeah,
just seeing what makes him him.
Okay, so here's a good question: of all your favorite shows, all right, you're gonna have to really think on this one. I promise y'all, I got my leg up on my knee, and it's like I'm making these weird fart sounding noises. It's totally not JP being gassy, and I'm not covering for him. That's not what's happening. But anyways, of all your favorite shows, pick which character from any show. I mean, you can even go to Seinfeld if you want. I don't care. Which character would probably last the longest in The Walking Dead from all your favorite shows?
Huh. Oh man, that's tough. That's real tough. That's super tough. For me, it would probably be. I'll go with my favorite old Tony Soprano. I'll go with him.
So you think he would survive the zombie apocalypse?
Yeah, man. I think he would. Well, unless he had a panic attack, then he'd be pretty screwed. Because he would just keel over with panic attack. So maybe not. But
I'll do this. I'll make it even better. All right. Off top of your head, not thinking, whatever. What's your favorite show?
Probably The Sopranos.
Okay, well, never mind. I was going to say, if you said, another show, I was like, all right, so what character from that show would last the longest in The Walking Dead? I think I would pick Saeed from Lost. I think that if of all the characters and all the other shows, like, Saeed's a beast. I think Saeed would have probably outlasted. I mean, and of course you got, Game of Thrones, I know, but more like not mythical and everybody's like a badass type shows. Mm-hmm. I feel like, of like Breaking Bad and, because anybody from Vikings or Game of Thrones, the world they come from, Jesus, they'd be right at home in the Walking Dead world, but more modern, like Lost or like I said, like Breaking Bad or, gosh, what other shows do I watch? Dexter, things like that. I still think that probably Saeed from Lost would last the longest.
Yeah, or I know you won't get this much, but Lieutenant Commander Worf from Star Trek, he was the Klingon, I think he'd do pretty well.
I think Rick Sanchez would probably fare better than anybody from Rick and Morty. I think Rick's got it, man. Shit. He'd just be like, this universe sucks. Whoop, whoop. And just go through a portal and be like, what if that was you find out at the end of The Walking Dead, this is just a universe that Rick and Morty excuse my language, we don't cuss on these. My bad. What if you found out it was just a universe that Rick and Morty had messed up and abandoned? That was the cause of the zombie outbreak. It definitely wouldn't
surprise me, man. I'd like to see, like, if there was some way technologically to take the Andy Griffith show and just turn it into, like, Night of the Living Dead,
You probably, dude, we could probably do that. We could probably mix in clips, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Barney, you got to stab Aunt B through the brain. You're just making her suffer.
There's zombies out there, Andy. Can't I have more than one bullet?
Yeah. Oh.
No, sir, Barney. I see the way you just pull that gun on anyone. You gonna only get one bullet at a time. But Andy, come on, Barney. We got to get across to the water tower.
I think in reality, Andy would have to have like a look at the flowers moment with Barney and realize that he's just going to get more people killed in this universe. So he's,
Hey, Barn, let's go do some fishing.
Yeah.
Oh, take a look down. Take a gander down there and look at those big fish. I don't see them, man.
Yeah.
Bye, Barn.
Oh, man. Good stuff, Jonas. Good.
Ernest T. Bass would probably be all right.
Yeah, man.
Throwing rocks.
Modern day, man, if they ever like rebooted Andy Griffith, he'd definitely be like some hillbilly meth dude.
He'd be like Merle.
Yeah, he really would be.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
Good times.
Yeah.
Come on, Andy. One more bullet.
Oh, man. But Jonas goes on with another what if. What if Ezekiel and Negan went at it bare knuckles and all? I can't seem to remember those two sharing any screen time.
Ezekiel and Negan?
Yeah.
You're right, and that's kind of why it would be interesting to see it from the Kingdom's perspective, just to see if he ever actually even met Negan, or if he just met, the Savior, that he dealt with. But, I mean, I think Negan will whoop that ass. As much as I love Ezekiel, I mean, we know that, Ezekiel's definitely able to tussle, but look at Simon. Negan handled. I mean, in reality, I think that Simon probably would have beat the hell out of Negan, but as far as the show goes, I mean, Negan's no chump when it comes to the fisticuffs. I mean, he knows what to do. So I feel like the fact, I feel like Negan would take that one.
Yeah, I'll give the win to Negan as well.
But it's saving grace. Right as Negan is about to deliver the final blow, Ezekiel with blood in his mouth and his eyes blacked and just beaten to a pulp says, "Wait a minute. Negan, you are a man who loves the pleasures of the flesh. Yeah?" He takes his cane and pulls it, but instead of its sword, there's a dildo.
Oh, shucks.
"Have you heard of the Barn of Pleasures? It's a place where Rick's there every Tuesday. Everyone's there. Well, hot diggity dog. Y'all almost let me kill the man." But no, I feel like for sure Negan would probably have that one.
Yeah, sorry, Ezekiel.
That was one of my favorite Negan moments, honestly. I mean, with the fact that, because so many tyrants or so many, people at the top are at the top. Because studies have shown that, from an evolutionary standpoint, just tribalism, that most of the time people follow whoever's the loudest.
Yeah.
If you were in a crowd of survivors and you couldn't fight to save your life and you weren't worth a shit, but you can put on the facade that you are and you speak the loudest and sound like you're confident in what you're saying, odds are most people will follow you. Most people are just, that's the way that we're conditioned to follow whoever's the loudest. So I definitely feel like that was one of my favorite Negan moments, where he had Simon dead to rights. He was a traitor, could have killed him, been done with it. But I loved when he said, I'm going to give you a chance. If you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. That made me actually gain a lot more respect for Negan because he won't all talk. Like, he was happy to get in there and get physical and show his alpha male status. So,
oh, yeah, man. He talks the talk and walks the walk. That's
absolutely.
For sure. We got one more from Jonas before we move on to our very last What If, and the last one's going to be a real humdinger.
A humdinger.
All right.
What does a humdinger sound like?
I think just hums and dings.
Show me. Give me.
Ding.
Do it again.
Ding. Ding. That's pretty much what it is.
One more time.
Ding.
What is that, like a redneck?
That's how we do it up in the mountains.
Ding.
But,
interesting.
Jonas says, what if Daryl and Michonne had hooked up instead back in season 4? If you watch closely in the episode where Tyrese, Daryl, Michonne, and Bob went out to the college for medicine, Michonne was giving Daryl some strong hints. Very interesting. I don't recall that as well, but...
Michonne, you know what? Despite how badass she can be, I feel like Michonne's still got an elegance about her. Yeah. She's still a classy lady. She just doesn't mind becoming a ninja and chopping you to pieces if you cross her. So I feel like first and foremost, she'd have been like, all right, Daryl, I want to do this, but first go take a damn bath. You stink.
Yeah.
But that would have been interesting, man. A Daryl, Michonne. I don't know, man. I could kind of see that. I mean, he's dark and brooding. And she definitely is, not always that way. She could definitely be friendly and sociable and lighthearted, but she can go to that dark place and, together. I could see that. I think that, but now where would that leave Rick? Rick would be jealous.
Taking care of himself, I guess.
All by myself. Yeah. Just look like you just see like they're walking down the street holding hands in Alexandria, and Rick's just got like from the nose up staring out of a window. But he's not jealous about Michonne. He's jealous about Daryl. He's like, this is some bullshit.
Yeah. Oh boy, but that's that would have been interesting, Jonas. You definitely taken us down some interesting avenues, and keep them coming, brother.
We wouldn't have gotten some of Michonne's best. I don't feel like we would have gotten some of Michonne or Denai Guerrero as an actress's best moments, though, because, she'd have been close with Carl, but I think once she got with Rick and kind of stepped into that stepmom role,
oh yeah,
because Carl and Michonne's relationship was actually one of my favorites on the entire show because it was just so organic. Like they started off friends. She understood that he needed, like she just knew how to talk to Carl. She knew that he needed space, but she also was friendly. And then she kind of stepped into that motherly role, and it felt very natural. And, I don't think we would have gotten some of her. And then I loved her performance on Rick's final episode, and I don't know that she would have been nearly as forefront in that if she got with Daryl, but I don't know. I don't really know how it would change. Then you wouldn't have RJ.
No.
She wouldn't have gone off. She would still be there with Daryl. I wonder if she would have followed him into the woods after Rick died, or Rick seemingly died. She wouldn't be... you know what, though? You might still... Actually, though, one thing that would maybe remain the same would be like the Judith relationship, because now we've seen her and Daryl have moments. So with Rick gone, they still may have kind of like adopted Judith. You know what I'm saying?
Probably so.
So you might still have the Judith-Michonne relationship, but you still wouldn't have had some of Michonne's greatest moments.
Yeah, man. I will definitely say that that's probably the best, adjustment or whatever they've done from the comic to the show was putting Rick and Michonne together.
Yeah, it works.
Good stuff. But, thank you, Jonas. All gold you're throwing at us. And are you ready to wrap it up with Drew is a God?
Well, if you said it was a humdinger, so remember this. Before and after you read this, I need a humdinger from you.
All right. Well, this one is going to be crazy. All right. It's crazy.
All right. Well, you know what you got to do before and after.
All right. Yeah. Humdinger. All right. Drew is God. Let's say that instead of Rick killing Shane, they just agreed to go their separate ways. Little did we know Shane was still brooding and lurking while following the group to Alexandria. Next time we see Shane, he is Negan's number 2 instead of Simon. Simon is still part of the group, just not as number 2. All of Rick and Shane's history since the outbreak only adds to the animosity between the two groups. Negan starts to see that Shane is loose cannon, the Simon storyline of killing all the heapsters, etc., and has to have that same epic showdown fight Negan and Simon had. To sum it up, even though Negan still killed Abraham and Glenn, him killing Shane is what helped the story to what we know now. Only a little bit of a different avenue to get there. Y'all can explore all the other dominoes this scenario would entail. It'll be fun hearing y'all's opinion of this what if. And he goes on to say, regardless, keep making the enjoyable videos. Best wishes, guys.
Oh, man.
Best wishes to you.
Thank you, Dylan / God. JP, what do you got to wrap that up with?
Ding.
There you go. Beautiful. You have the voice of an angel. It's like Fergie and Jesus mixed in together.
Yeah.
Man, that would be awesome.
That'd be wild, man. Shane following him all the way up there. Like, dude, dialogue between Shane and Negan. That'd be pretty wild.
That would have been. Now, that's something I would love to see, man. Like, 'cause like Shane's gone all this time, and you think the show's just forgotten about him or whatever. I mean, you got two ways of looking at it, though. I mean, do we get that could show us some backstory. I mean, what if we followed Shane right along, Rick?
That's what I was wondering. Are we like seeing him stalking them,
I feel like you would have to show him from time to time or else people would forget about him and it wouldn't quite have the... I mean, it would definitely be like a, oh, shit moment. And it would have been much better than the was it Morales?
Oh, yeah.
That was the stupidest cameo ever. It was like, Officer Friendly. And back in that camp in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 some. Bam, bolt dead. Oh, wow, what a waste of time. I know who he was. Let's go. That whole thing. When I was at the beach watching that, I was like, that was stupid.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. It definitely would have been I think it would have been cool if they would have done that. And then, like, you don't see Shane every episode, but from time to time he pops up. And you kind of see it's kind of like a side story you get maybe 2 or 3 times a season. Like you just pop up and see Shane's, and then you could kind of get a little backstory. It would have served many different purposes to follow his story. You don't lose interest in Shane. It's always a treat when you see him. And it also would give the comic readers like, oh, damn, because you start to see that the group, like maybe at some point to season 2 and 3 or 4, he starts getting with this group of people and they start forming the saviors or they're maybe not the saviors yet, but then they get introduced to Negan and then you could get some backstory on the saviors. So that would have been a really cool avenue. But if you want to look at it from the perspective of he disappears and you don't see him until he pops up as Negan's right hand, it definitely would have been like a boom, like, oh shit moment.
Yeah, and then, man, that would have been a crazy throwdown, Shane and Negan. It's hard to say, man, who would come out on top. I don't know. Shane's definitely got some size on him, I feel like.
Shane's stockier, yeah. Shane's definitely got more of just that kind of like stocky boxer build versus Negan. But so did Stephen Oggs. Was a stout fellow when he was playing. I don't know, if he's still in shape or what, but he wasn't no chump neither. He was bigger than Shane.
Yeah, that'd have been crazy, man, if Shane had have taken out Negan and took over the Saviors, man, how he would have handled just everything. That's a whole different scenario in itself.
But I like what he said about how Shane being a hothead, because we know Shane's a hothead, and I could definitely see Shane taking Simon's story as far as wiping out people that wouldn't fall in line, and he's just evolved into this monster. And what really would be interesting would be for Shane to meet back up with Rick after all this time. And you think Shane might have he's working for Negan, but he could just be like, Rick, holy shit, and they're kind of, you think for a moment Shane might, and then he asks, he's like, I hate to, I know this is with our past, this is a little bit of a rough, question or whatever. How's Lori?
Oh, man.
And when Rick says she died, having Shane just explode and launching this, I told you couldn't keep her safe. I told you I would have kept him alive. Blah, 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 because, that was his whole thing with Rick in season 2 was, I'll keep him alive. Yeah. You don't have what it takes I know you don't have what it takes to keep him alive. And then it would have been a major, I told you so moment for Shane, and just kind of brings back all his hatred for Rick, because he leaves not happy with Rick and angry with Rick, but they leave in this alternate universe because he knows deep down he does love Rick. He's his best friend, but they're just not going to work around each other anymore. So he decides to leave. So then you're thinking, as they're kind of reconnecting, there might be some hope here. And Shane's kind of, being somewhat friendly and talking to Rick, like, holy shit, how have you been, man? Blah, blah, blah. I got to ask, how's Lori? And then when he finds out that she died under Rick's protection, oh my God, Shane would just explode, and it would be such great TV. But like I said, I really like the idea of him playing out with Simon's story arc. It just fits with him. But I mean, there's so much more at stake.
Oh yeah,
I would feel kind of cheated though if we finally reconnected with Shane after all that time, and then Negan was the one to kill him. So I would have to change the story arc up a little bit more, though. I would say that Rick would still have to kill Shane.
Yeah. I
mean, I would love to see Negan and Shane throw down, no doubt. I think that would have went a little bit different, because even though Simon wasn't a small guy, I don't think he had I think he was a little bit more brains than he was, the fighting. He had the temper and all of that, but I mean, the way he threw down with Negan, man, he just throwing like a chump, all those wide punches. And I feel like Shane would have come in more boxerish, taking Negan to the ground and pound. I feel like Shane would have had a little bit more of a chance. But with that said, I would rewrite it to where Shane doesn't die in that scenario, and then Rick ends up getting to kill him.
And man, as much as Shane loves to cuck other dudes, he'd probably have all kinds of iron marks on him from nailing Negan's brides.
I don't see... the only problem I have with any of that is I just don't see Shane being subservient like Simon and the others were. Like, I don't see Shane. I mean, he don't take orders well.
No, he doesn't.
So the only thing I don't see is I don't see how. I mean, I think, and that could lead to conflict, because up to this point, maybe he has been following Negan's orders because he could, whatever. But then once his anger resurfaces, maybe you could have it. Maybe he's been a little bit more subservient because without Rick and Lori around, his temper's not flaring up as bad. And then when Rick comes back, that's where all his hot-headedness starts. And that, man, that would be super cool. I just imagine the moment where it's like they're in the lineup or whatever, and then Shane steps out would be almost more shocking than Negan's first reveal.
Yeah, for real.
To have had him be like, hey, Rick, and you look up and it's just Shane standing there behind Negan. Or, Negan gets out and does his whole intro bit and says, oh, before we start, how rude would I be not to introduce you to my right-hand man, a man who says he's got a little experience with you. And he's like, then you see the boots step out the trailer that Negan just stepped out of and walks up, and the camera pans back and reveals it's Shane, and he's like, hey, Rick. But then again, I don't know that Shane would have ever let Carl be in that lineup.
Yeah.
I mean, while he definitely wanted to take Rick out, I mean, he did. I don't think he would ever have wanted to have put Carl in harm's way.
Yeah. It would have been interesting, man, like Shane's reaction to Glenn getting his head bashed in, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. And, of course, the scenario, we're painting different scenarios here because Shane stepping out in the reveal, definitely then you wouldn't have had that Rick and Shane moment where you think Shane's, going to be easy on him or whatever. So it just kind of this isn't going along with what I said earlier. This would be totally different, like a different reveal for Shane stepping out, but oh man, that could have been so. I loved Shane. I truly do. Like a lot of people or a lot of countdowns you watch, like Watch Mojo, I think maybe, and then some others years ago would always say that season 2 was like one of the worst seasons of The Walking Dead because it was so slow and draggy and boring. And I'm like, dude, that's one of my absolute favorite seasons. Season 1's great. Season 3 is really good. Season 4 is pretty damn good. Season 2 for me is that's the season that solidified my love for the show.
Yeah, it was solid.
Season 1, it came on. I liked it. I couldn't wait for season 2, but at the same time, it was still new. I still had my guard up as to if I was going to be like, oh, I love this show. Mm-hmm. Season 2, man, some of my favorite moments come from season 2, and a lot of them revolve around the dynamic of Rick and Shane. So it would have been interesting to have been able to keep him in the show, and it would have been way different from the comic.
Oh, I know.
Because those of us that read the comics, we kind of knew where Shane was headed. We knew that when they went out in that field, I knew that. Honestly, from the comic, I thought Shane was going to step out and Carl was going to be the one to step out during that confrontation and shoot Shane because he was going to step out and see Shane pointing a gun at Rick and shoot him.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they still kind of kept the comic counterpart intact the way they had Carl kind of kill him once he became a walker. But. Yeah. We knew when they were in that field, it was like, oh, Shane's about to die.
Yeah. That'd have been crazy, man.
I guess
Shane is a savior.
I guess the turning point could have been the whole Randall thing. Like Shane really did follow Randall. Mm-hmm. You know, like he let Randall go and decided to actually just do what he said. Like, I'm leaving this group. I don't want to be a part of it no more. I'm going to find your people. It would have been cool, man.
Yeah, it would have been, man. It definitely would have opened up a whole new world of possibilities.
If only we had the time to sit and craft out these fan fiction stories.
Oh, I know, man.
I mean, if we ever get enough on our Patreon that we can do this full time, we might could do that. Sit down and write some fan fiction Walking Dead. I think that would be awesome.
Oh yeah,
man.
dude, for sure.
But just time right now, it's not possible. But maybe one day, man, that would be a fun little side thing that we would love to do is to do like some Walking Dead fan fiction.
Yeah.
Just like take these what ifs and just create alternate stories off of them, because we're reading these off the top of our head. Like, we don't really have time to prepare, or so if you don't get a response that is as in depth as you'd like, we apologize, because we genuinely don't read the what ifs until we sit down to do this podcast. So we're going from the top of our head. But imagine if we had time to take like that. All right, so we were like, all right, cool. So we're going to write an alternate fan fiction story of Shane parting ways versus dying and then reemerging as a savior. How fun would that be to craft his story leading up to that moment?
Been pretty wild. Pretty wild.
I mean, so many domino effects, too. And I know we got to cut this off. We're reaching about the hour point here. But, like, Rick might not be as hardened as early. Like, killing Shane changed Rick.
It did. Yeah.
It took him, he crossed that. There were lots of turning points for Rick Grimes, but killing those two guys in the bar definitely kind of turned his opinion from we don't kill the living. You just killed two of the living, my friend. And then killing Shane changed him quite a bit, because, even in season 4, we're getting references where, he's like, Shane taught me that. You remember him? And Rick's like, yeah, I remember him. I think about him every day. So, it definitely had its effects on it. And I love the conversation of Rick and Shane in Rick's final episode, where Shane says, I like to take a little credit for that, because he's right. He basically became what Shane said. He became more Shane-like. I'm not saying he became exactly like Shane, but he definitely learned that, yes, you have to do some muffed up stuff to survive. If you want to keep and I think maybe even knowing that Shane had doubted his ability to keep them alive is what drove him to bite Homeboy's throat out.
Yeah.
Drove him to kill all the Terminus people. That was a Shane move right there.
Yeah, no doubt.
Old Rick would have been like, we got them dead to rights. They're unarmed. We can't just kill them.
Yeah.
Shane would have been the one like, hell no, we got them. Let's blow the heads off.
Right.
So it's a lot of really interesting ways that story could have played out. Rick might not have had what it took to survive had not he been put in that scenario. We had no choice but to kill Shane.
Yeah.
Shane kind of woke the sleeping giant within Rick, I feel like.
He did for sure.
But leave us your thoughts in the comments below. Again, if you're new to the channel, this is what we do. We love just discussing The Walking Dead. We're not here to be the authorities on the show or to be the final say or any of that. We're just two guys who really enjoy this universe and love to discuss it. So feel free to join in the conversation. We always love it when somebody has a good point that we can throw into the next podcast. So.
No, absolutely.
Check us out. Make sure to check out our Patreon. I didn't mean to cut you off there, man. But just make sure to check out our Patreon out. You for as little as $1 a month, you get 8 extra podcasts. And those go everywhere, though. They can be about The Walking Dead, UFOs, ghosts, some weird kinky dream JP had the other night. Just who knows?
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's a real free-for-all.
Which that's a bad example because you don't dream that often. That's kind of one of your
things. Well, I don't
things.
remember them as well as I wish I.
Right. Yeah. I know everybody. Yeah. But we'll see you Monday for another Walking Dead What If. Granted, being this one's late, we actually get some responses. Load us up with those questions, man. Seriously, fill the comment section up. Even if it's something stupid. What if Beth was Maggie? I say that I'm like it's easy, and then I can't come up with one. But you really can come up with all kinds. What if Merle would have lived? What if Daryl and Merle's character were switched? Would we like Merle as much as we like Daryl? Or blah, 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 blah. Any kind of Walking Dead question you can think of. What if Rick's brother were with the group? Blah, 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 blah. Because they do mention Rick's brother.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I know they do in the comic. There was a whole little side story about it, but I can't remember if they mentioned it in the show. I think they mentioned it in the show. But anyways, all right. So that's gonna wrap it up for us, and keep surviving.
Yeah.
We'll see you soon. I'm Justin.
I'm JP,
and we're the Podcasting Dead.